Okay, so we're going to be looking at module number 7, and this is an introduction to working drawings. And working drawings, as we learned the last time we were together, is really that full set of working drawings, that full set of drawings that is going to take us all the way from the individual parts through putting it together in as assembly. Okay, so it's all of the details and the assembly drawing to bring everything all together. Okay, so we're going to be going over that today. So new stuff today. So if you are following along with me, great. But if you're focusing right now on finishing other stuff up, you're going to miss some important things. So it's if you're not listening to me right now, come back to me, okay? Because we're going to be going over some items today that are going to be new it's going to be generating these assembly drawings. That's what we're going to focus on today. So I'm going to open up. Actually, I'm going to go underneath my camera first, and we are going to be looking at creating this assembly right here. And this is at the very tail end of chapter 12. Now, in our book for AutoCAD, we have, and we looked at the last time we were together, this collar, bearing, and the base plate. Okay, the collar, bearing, and the base plate. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be showing how these parts go together now in an assembly form. So this is the assembly drawing, similar, not exactly, to how we're going to be creating it. So I'm going to be walking you through that process. Okay. You'll also notice that we have some fasteners that we do need to create. All right. And I'll show you where that is. I'm not too worried about that right now. You can always follow up with that and put those into position, but I'll show you where the detail is. But the main focus of our lecture today is going to be getting these together, how to pull all of these drawings in and get them into the form that we have here, and then creating the bill of material with our list of parts, how many, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's go over to AutoCAD, and we are going to start here with just our blank screen. Okay, now I have the inch template up, the WCTC inch template up. So if I go back to my home menu and I look, I'm going to have all of my layers available. Okay, so your template should be all set. Now, there's not as much dimensioning here. Okay, so don't get too worried. It's kind of nice. We just do balloons and we make a bill of material because now we're just showing how the parts all come together. Okay, so let's take a peek here. Now, if we go back to, I'm going to go back underneath my camera at the very beginning of the chapter. Okay, there is, oops, did I lose my camera? Oh, there it is. There is a drawing. This is on page 12.4. There is a drawing for that fastener. Okay, so I made up the drawing for the fastener. All right, and so before you finish up this assembly drawing, you are going to want to use this in order to make it. Now, the fastener drawing, if you would, is just the drawing. I did add dimensions to mine just so that when we pull it in, you're going to kind of see the dimensions there, but I did not put it on a border. Okay, it does not get anything formal except just drawing it so that I can put it into my assembly. And the reason we do that is because hardware is hardware is hardware. It's not anything special. It's standard. And in many drafting programs, unfortunately not in AutoCAD, the program, the version that we have here at WCTC, there are things called toolboxes where you can pull these out and they're standard parts that you can just pull in and you never draw them. So when we get to Creo has a toolbox like this and we'll be pulling stuff in. SolidWorks, if you ever work with SolidWorks, that has a toolbox. Okay. But in AutoCAD here, we are going to manually have to just draw the part. You don't have to put any dimensions on it. It's not going to be a formal detail, and we'll never do that for any hardware. But we have to make sure that we can represent it in the assembly so that we can balloon it. Okay. So that's why this is here, and that's why we didn't create a formal drawing for it. But we're going to want to quickly add this, create this. You're probably looking at it right now like, oh, it's no big deal. You're right. It is no big deal. But the other parts that we're going to be pulling together are going to be the collar, the base plate, and then the bearing. Okay, so all three of these parts. Now, when we do an assembly drawing, the best way to pull it in is to kind of pull it in, if you can imagine how you're going to assemble it. So the order that I'm going to pull in is going to be first the base plate, then our bearing, and then our collar, and then I'm going to be pulling in the fasteners. Okay. And really it kind of is how we would probably stack it up and then assemble it. That's not always going to be the case, because sometimes there might be a couple different things that you could do maybe at the same time or as a sub-assembly or something like that. But that's how we kind of want to think about how we're doing things. Additionally, when we go to and we use parametric software to create assemblies, it's really that same thought process too. How are we going to build this, to pull it together? So we're starting with that base plate. So I am going to go over to AutoCAD, and right now I have a fresh session. So I've got just drawing to that generic value that new drawing that came in. So all I want to do right now is give this a file, save as, and I'm going to navigate to the directory where I want to save it. I have mine in module 7 assemblies, and I'm going to give it the name. So it's going to be shaft support underscore, I'm going to spell out assembly. Okay. Shaft support assembly. Now, if you had a part number, as we know, we had a part number signed, we would do that for this particular part, but we'll just go with the names for here because the process is still the same. Okay. So it's going to be a save as. So if you look at the top, you'll notice that your file now changed on your tab to whatever you called it. Okay. And up here, you'll notice that the path for it also changed. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to pull in each of these separate drawings. So any ideas how we're going to do that? So we've got our drawing and we want to pull something in. Copy paste them. You could. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Insert block from library. That's really the accepted way to do it. Okay. You could copy and paste. I'm not saying that that's a bad way to do it. I don't know. It may be easier. I'm trying to think of a reason. There are a couple of reasons why we would want to insert from block, because sometimes we want things to kind of stick together as their own part as well. I don't have a really good reason right now, Hans, why you wouldn't want to do that, but go ahead.
Also, when you insert via block, you can edit each block.
Yeah.
Isolate it, you can isolate each block and you can edit the block.
You can. And then additionally, the other thing, you can bring it in at certain scales, sometimes in copy and paste. Otherwise, you're scaling it in the drawing. And this way you're pulling it in as the scale that you want it to be. Play around with both. Play around with both. But we're going to insert from block. So we're going to go to insert, and we've done this before, blocks from libraries. We're going to arrow down and we're going to navigate to that directory where you have the base plate saved. So I'm going to browse block libraries. I'm going to go to my module assignments, module 7 assemblies. And here is where I have my base plate done. So I'm going to pull up my base plate. I'm going to open, and now it's going to populate here on the right-hand side. So just like when we were pulling in the borders, but now we're just pulling in the individual parts. Okay. So I'm going to click on it just like I do. Remember, it's not a click and drag, it's a click. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to pull it in and I'm going to place it anywhere. Okay. It doesn't matter where it is, but it's going to be to a 1-to-1 scale because we need that part at that scale. And that's why you draw these 1-to-1 all the time. Okay. No matter what you pull your border in, I don't really care. And how large or small your text is in the end, when you want to print it out, your actual features are 1-to-1 always. Okay. So I'm just going to place it. I'm just going to left click and I'm going to hit enter because the scale factor 1 is going to be the default. And then it's there. Okay. Now, if I hover over this, notice that if I would select it, it selects everything. That's what a block is. It comes in and it's all one. So to deal with this, I am going to explode it. All right. That means it's going to put it into its separate entities. So now I'm going to hit the explode button. Okay. And I'm just going to select any line on there. Okay. Any line on there. And then I'm going to hit enter. Okay. I'm going to hit enter. And now if we look over the top, I want to say it goes back 1 level, if you would, to explode. So my border is still like its solid entity, right? Like I would have normally pulled it in. And I don't want the border on here. So borders, I'm always going to select and I'm going to simply delete it, hit the delete key. okay? And then you're gonna notice that I have my dimensions and the construction lines are showing. So I'm gonna go up to my layers here and I'm gonna get rid of the dimensions, not rid of them, I'm gonna hide them and I'm gonna hide the construction lines, okay? So I have just this stuff left. You could go and individually delete those because we're not gonna use them in the assembly, but it's just faster, couple clicks and they're gone, right? Okay. And then you're going to notice that we have the 3 views left. And this is exactly what I want. Now let's look back at our assembly drawing, how they created it. Okay. Now you don't always, remember this assembly drawing is just to show how these parts are going to go together. So a lot of times they can be a little bit more simplistic than, a full blown, you don't always need 3 views. Okay. Unless it adds clarity. I probably would have added 1 more view here, but this is a nice example to kind of show us the process. So we're kind of keeping it simple here, okay? So we are just going to have, if you would, as we look at our base plate, it's really just the front view. We are going to be adding some hatching. We'll do that after we get all the parts together, but we just need this one front view of our base plate. So I'm going to go back to AutoCAD and I'm simply going to erase or delete 2 other views that I don't need. That's it. Okay, so now I've just got what I need, and now I'm going to pull in the next part. Okay, so I'm going to go to, well, it probably wouldn't hurt to do a quick save, right? File, save, and we're good. Insert, block from library. Go back to browse block libraries, go back to that. It should go back to that same place. And this time we want to do the bearing. Open. Should populate here for us. I'm going to click on it, pull it in. Again, place it wherever, okay, wherever. And I want it to be 1-to-1 scale. And notice this time the dimensions didn't come in. Why didn't they come in? They did. We turn the layer off, right? So for anything that's coming in from this point forward, those dimensions are simply going to be off, and that's okay. That's all right. We're going to keep them hidden in the background. And then what we need to do right now, it's in it here as a complete all-in-one block. So I'm going to do 1 level of explode here. Okay. And then I'm going to grab my border. See, grab my border, and I'm going to delete my border out. That doesn't need to be in there. Now I'm going to look back at the drawing and you'll notice that I only need that side view, right? I only need that side view. So I'm going to get rid of, erase. I'm going to get rid of that view there, enter. And then I'm going to move my view over here. So I'm going to hit the move or M. I'm going to pull this over, but now I've got to orient this so that it is rotated, right? So I'm going to hit the rotate. I'm going to select, I'm going to grab really any point, and I just want to rotate it 90 degrees. So if you happen to have your polar tracking on, it's gonna like, as you rotate this around, it's going to snap to, 90 degrees. Okay. Or you can enter the angle that you want it to go. So for instance, if it's sitting here and I want it to rotate in that direction, I could key in a negative 90 degrees, right? And it's going to put it in that orientation. Okay. So watch your command line to make sure you're doing it in the right order. And then I want to move it so it lines up. So I'm going to line it up. I'm going to select the entire assembly, but I'm going to grab this intersection right here from that bottom to that center line. And then I'm going to go to the top of the base plate and that center line to align those centers with the rest of the assembly. And then, it should all fit together. So I'm going to do a move again. I'm going to go from this intersection here, and I'm going to go down to that intersection right there. Okay. Yes.
Since it's 2 separate parts, we don't get rid of the line, the conflicting line.
Not yet. Not yet. Okay. Not yet. I'm going to pull everything in, and then I'm going to say, then we're going to clean up the drawing. Okay. So right now I'm just going to work with what I've got here. Okay. And what Joshua was asking is, what about the overlapping lines? Do I need to worry about those? We will. Okay. We're just pulling stuff in right now to get it in place, and then we'll deal with cleaning it up. Okay, then we've got the collar to put in. So we're going to insert blocks from libraries, browse block libraries, and then we're going to grab that collar. Open. Collar will show up over here. Collar. Ooh, ooh, it's big. And I'm just going to put it, you know, kind of over and out of the way. So if you need to kind of, you know, zoom in and out, that's totally fine. Base position, and then you're going to do enter or enter the number 1, but it'll be the very same scale, a 1-to-1 scale when we have all the parts coming in. And now I want to do my explode, and I want to erase my border, and I want to erase that circular view because I'm going to just deal with the section. So now I'm going to move again, this over here, and then I'm going to rotate that very same thing and get it in that position. And then I'm going to place it. So I'm going to move there to there. Okay. All right. Do a quick save. And I've got all my parts in place. All my parts in place. Questions so far? Is that going okay for everybody? All right. Kind of easy, right? Not bad. Yes.
The collar, the underneath the top line of the.
Oh, again, remember, we'll clean it up in a little bit. We'll clean it up in a little bit, depending on, you know, how you changed your assembly, right? For the depth, you may have your counter board deeper than the actual part. I forget if I pulled in the ones that I moved or not. I may not have. Mine might be on top of each other yet. And that's okay for my example, but you're going to want to make sure that you have it updated. All right. So now this is where we're at. We want to clean up what we have. So let's just take a peek back. What's nice is we have this as a guide, right? And you'll notice that you know, like in this area, there's some extra lines that we have to resolve. So we'll go in and we'll do that. Additionally, the lines that are here, that's going to be duplicate lines over the top of one another and not great practice. So we want to get rid of any duplicate lines. Okay. Oh, additionally, we need to pull in, I forgot, we need to pull in our fastener. You probably are not going to have yours done yet, right? But again, it's a simple drawing. You don't have to do any dimensions. Mine's going to be dimension just because I did it for reference for you guys when I pull it in so you can see. But you don't make any drawing for a fastener. You're just going to draw it. So I'm going to insert block from library, browse to that same directory, and I just called it simply a cap screw. So notice, again, you don't even have to put the dimensions on it. You don't even have to put the dimensions on it. Now, my dimensions aren't coming in because they're hidden, but I had dimensions on there, 1-to-1 scale. And I'm going to show you, mine looks just slightly different. Mine is called what we would say is a simplified version of the actual fastener. So the only difference here, if we look kind of compare between the two, is that this one has those separate lines and mine just has the dashed lines to represent like what would be the root diameter, if you would, of those threads. This is called a simplified version, what I drew. Okay, it's the most accepted and the one that you're going to see most often out in industry because as you can see, it's way easier to draw and there's less lines than the schematic version. Okay, so the schematic version is this. This is a valid way. It is a standard where you can do it like that. If you want to, you can. All right, but you can just put the hidden lines in place. Yes.
When I was first downloading the originals that we had to change, I had gone on to the one that had the cap screw, so I downloaded the cap screw.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Just use the older version.
Just make sure it's, yeah, that's fine. You should, it should be the right sizes. I don't know where it would have been. Did I have it in the assignment?
You had it in module number 2.
Oh. Module 2.
If you go into
I don't want to search for it. I don't want to take time.
Let me,
You can find it. I'm not going to find it right now.
It's in session 2. That's where I downloaded the stuff.
Oh, is it in there? Oh, then maybe I did you guys a favor. It's so nice of me. Look at that. Aw, look at, there it is. You're right. Thank you, Joshua. I forgot that I put that in there. I thought we just had the 3. There it is. So go ahead and download mine, then it's easier. Yes.
I downloaded all of those and now I didn't put in the ones that I changed from weeks ago.
Crap. That's a bummer.
Thought those were already fixed, like, oh, these are the examples you should have now.
How did you explode the border to remove it? Anyone? Noble. Okay, hold on. I'll do that really quickly. So if we go back and let me pull in one of the other ones again. So I'm going to insert block from library, navigate to where I want to go. I'm going to pull in the collar. There we go. That one. Here's my collar. I'll simply pull it in. Okay. 1-to-1 scale. And all you do is you explode it 1 level, enter. And then when I grab back onto the border, I'm just going to hit the delete key and that's it. Then it's gone. Was that what you were asking, Noble? Is that helpful? I think that's what you were maybe asking. Yes. Okay. All right. Good. All right. So now, yes, sorry about that. I forgot that I put that in there for you guys. So the just download the hardware that cap screw that I have for you. I didn't go back to that assignment. And we're going to move this into position and then copy it. So you'll notice that right now, this is all a block. All right. And this is what is nice because of the fact that when I grab it, I grab the whole thing. So if I go to copy, I go to move first, I'm going to grab it. I'm going to go to this intersection and I'm going to seat it down on the intersection for my counter bar. Okay. But now I want to copy it over. Since this is a block, I'm going to copy it, enter, go back to that same insertion point and go back over here. Now I can just simply copy the entire block over. On something like a copy paste, I don't think you can do that. I think it's going to be all the separate entities. You can group them. See, Hans, you got an answer for everything. Good. You know what? I guess this also, Hans had the suggestion of, can you just copy and paste them, like pull them all up, right? And then have them on your screen and then copy and paste them. Yeah, no, that's totally fine. There always is like 4,000 different ways. No, okay, there's about 4 ways probably that we could do this. All right. The most common though is the insertion, and just pulling the files in. All right. But if you wanted to play around with that copy paste method, go ahead because Hans says it's working great. All right, now we've got to do a little bit of cleanup, right? We've got to do a little bit of cleanup. So you guys all know how to trim and extend and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to do that for each and every one of these. All right, I'm going to kind of leave that up to you. So, so if we go in and we kind of, look, are there any things that we need to trim? And you can use page 1231, if you would, as your guide. Yeah. To know, how it's supposed to look. Okay. So if we go into this section, there are a couple of extra lines there. Go back to AutoCAD. So for instance, this line right here looks like we can get rid of just about all of it, right? We're going to have to put it back in this line right here, but that's okay. That's not that hard. Just going to grab that line back in. Okay. Escape. And we're going to go line. Is there an extra? Do I feel like there's an extra there? Is there an extra? At the bottom? Oh, because I did move mine. Yes. See, this is what you gotta check. That's all right. You know what? Kelly's gonna go like this. Yes, we will be redoing the hatching. So then you'll notice that here I've got maybe a line or 2 on top of each other. You want to get rid of those. Okay. Also on the verticals, there's going to be some additional lines here. Again, cleaning this up so that you don't have some of those overlaps. Center lines, I would almost get rid of just about all the center lines. You can't turn them off, because then you're going to re-put them back in because, so we want to be able to have them there, but some of these are clearly overlapping and we want to get rid of the ones that are not needed. I probably would get rid of that and then extend. This is the only one up here. Then just pull this one all the way through. Okay, and then you can add a center line then. Here out, and then from here out. Okay, so that's there, and so on. So you want to play around with that. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these, but you're going to then get rid of, you know, as many entities that need to, and then using that that drawing as a guide. Yes.
Is this, like, is the cap screwed? It looks like it shouldn't fit, isn't the hidden lines on the screw and the hidden lines on the part show the edges of the screw itself. That's like offset by that like 32nd.
Yeah, this is just remember, these are, the screw itself is representing the actual threads. Okay, so it doesn't have to be perfectly sized. And then what we're going to do is I want to show you, you're going to want to straighten out your hatching. So if we go back to underneath, okay, here, you'll notice that wherever we have materials that are coming together or parts that are coming together, okay, the hatches are different and going in opposite directions. Okay, so right now, when we look at the hatching from the collar to the hatching of our bearing, these two are going in the same direction. So I always think it's a good idea to just delete the existing out of here, because then I can start over and I can set it all up to my dimensions that I want. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Additionally, in this view down here for the base plate, again, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these. I know that you guys have the ability to do this, but like, for instance, this hole going through, those hidden lines need to be changed to object lines. Okay, so again, making sure that you're matching up with what we have here. All right. So I'm not going to go through each and every one of those. I just want to kind of point out some of the things that are unique to assembly drawings. So let's look at the hatch. Okay, so we're going to go to the hatch layer. We're going to go over to hatch, and I am going to just use the ANSI 131 for my base plate. Now this seems a little close together and it's set at a scale of 1, so I'm going to go to a scale of 2. Maybe that's a little far. I'm going to go 1.5. It doesn't have to be perfect to what the book has, but I think that's pretty decent. And I'm going to go with these at the angle that we have. Okay. And I'm going to hit okay. Now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to do the hatch for the next part. So I'm going to have my hatch layer, go to hatch. I'm going to keep on the same one and I'm going to go to my bearing, but now notice that they're all going in the same direction. So right now I'm going to go up to my angle over here and it's set at 0. I want to set this to, I think it would be 90 degrees, right? To where it's at 90. And now you'll notice that, well, it's in the opposite, like it goes opposite now. So I like that. And then I'm going to continue to grab using the opposite. Okay. Something that students forget is not changing that angle. Okay. You can also change the scale as well. And then I'm going to do it one more time for my collar up on top. So I'm going to go to hatch. It's going to remember the last ones that I had. So I need this angle to change again. I can put it back to 0 so it goes opposite, but you'll notice that it's the exact same hatch as the base plate. Okay, so they may be made out of the same material. That's okay. But what I want to do is just change the spacing a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go back to maybe 1 and kind of see how that, and then you can see it looks like 3 distinct parts when you change the hatching spacing a little bit. Okay, so do that. That does make a difference. And then I'm going to hit okay. All right. So play around with the hatching. Just make sure that when you have things that are touching each other on the surfaces, that their hatches are different angles. Okay, different angles. Don't have everything going in the same direction. This is something that when we get to the parametric software, it'll put everything in the same direction, and you're gonna have to go in and change that. Here we have a little bit more control, like from the beginning. Okay, so again, there's more work cleanup that would need to be done here, but I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna do a save. Okay. And let's look back at our drawing. So the next thing that I want to show you that's new, okay, is going to be pulling in our border and adding our bill of material. Okay, adding our bill of material. And then also balloons. So we need to know what the scale of our items are going to be. So just like on our detailed drawings, the next step is going to be, I've got to pull my border in. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of an experiment. So we're going to pull the border in, go to the border layer. We're going to go to insert, blocks from libraries. Okay. And we're going to navigate to where our borders are. Oh, shoots. I didn't go quite far enough. Let me go back. Blocks from libraries. And I want to pull in, I'm going to pull in an A-size border. That's what they have here. So I'm going to pull in an A-size border. It's an English border, so it's WCTC A, any of the A3, A4s. Yes.
If you're on the WCTC drawing board file, you can just click on one of them in there. It just has all of it.
Right. I know I have them.
It was there.
Was it? Well, I pulled it in the way I normally do. All right. So now you're going to notice that here is my border like I'm used to. Okay. And I need it to be around here. Now, if I go, this is the 1-to-1 scale. There's obviously not room to put my balloons and my bill of material. So I'm going to try to put it into a larger value. So what do you think? What should I put it in at? You guys have experience. You tell me what you think I should put it in at. What should we try 1.5? Okay. So insertion point, I'm going to kind of just randomly go down here. My scale is going to be 1.5. Enter. And then I'm going to put my information in. Now, because this is an assembly drawing, the material is going to be non-applicable. So I'm just going to go N/A because it's the same. See, it's the same border, but it's not going to be a special material for this because this is an assembly drawing pulling in a bunch of parts. Okay. My scale is going to be 1:1.5. My date is going to be, whatever I'm at. Is it the 4th, the 3rd, 2023. And then my drawing number, we don't have really a number. My name is Shaft Support Assembly. Now remember, all caps here on every single piece of text or dimensioning that we're putting on a drawing, all text. And then K-Riba. Okay. I see that there's a message in the chat here. Hold on. 1:1.5. Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you, Caleb. That's exact. You and Josh were thinking alike. Okay. So I've got now my part in here. So I'm going to move my border or my part. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to move the border just because it's easy to grab. And I'm probably going to want to, sometimes I'm going to want to put it something like this. Okay. My only concern is, do I have enough room for my table? I may or may not. Let's try. Let's try. If not, we get to do it over again. It's not a big deal, right? So totally good. Now, we are going to be adding our balloons and our bill of material. Those need to go on, well, you tell me which layer. What should they go on? What layer should they go on? Notes is going to be the one, because if we try to put them on the dimension layer, they're not going to show up, right? Or if I want to put them on the dimension layer, then I would have had to delete individually all those other dimensions in the background. That's why we have the extra notes layer for assemblies. Okay, makes sense? So we're gonna go to the notes layer, all right? Now, if you had anything on your notes layer previous and you had to turn it off, then you're gonna have to make the decision, maybe create a new layer that's gonna be, you know, notes 2 or notes 1 or something like that, because we need the layer then now to be available to us in the, you know, in the magenta with the same line style. I'm gonna actually move this over a little bit further like this. I think we'll have plenty of room if we do that. Okay. Now, let's go back. We're gonna deviate a little bit. We're gonna make it better. You'll notice that they have their balloons on here and they look just like leaders, okay? I don't know if there's a formal standard for balloons, but I'm gonna show you the more common way to do it. And it's not gonna be with a landing and it's not gonna be with an arrow. We're actually gonna put a dot. It's gonna terminate to a dot instead of an arrow. And our balloon is gonna sit right on top. There's not gonna be a landing, but it's gonna be in line through its center. So let's go back to AutoCAD and see how we can set this up. So we're gonna go, I'm gonna get rid of this. We're gonna go to the Annotate tab. And you'll notice right here is that multi-leader. Now this is just a regular leader, even though it shows it looking like a balloon, we need to change the settings to get it to a balloon. So I'm gonna go into the leaders style manager or multi-leader style manager. And you'll notice that the standard is going to be the regular leader. We don't want to get rid of that. Okay. We want to kind of keep that the same, but we're going to copy this style to make a new one. Okay. So that looks kind of familiar. And we're going to call this balloons. Okay. So the base of it is going to be similar, right, to that standard, but now we're just going to create a new one. So you're going to notice that kind of comes up here. I'm going to start on the first tab, leader format, and our familiar by block is here. So we know we're going to change all of those by blocks to by layer. Okay. We can do straight. We can leave that at straight. Then you're going to notice that we have the arrowhead. Right now, the arrowhead is a closed fills traditional arrowhead, but we can arrow down here and we have all these different options. And we're going to go to a filled in dot, okay? Not dot blank, just the regular dot. And instead of, because you kind of notice how big that dot is, instead of 0.125 or even 0.18, we're going to put a 1/16 of an inch, 0.0625. Okay, because then it'll be a little bit smaller. If I hit enter, you can kind of see it, so it looks better. Okay. All right, so make sure you have all of those changed on that first part. Then we're going to go to leader structure. And you'll notice it says maximum 2 leader points. That's totally fine. But then here in the landing settings, it says automatically include a landing. We want to uncheck that. That's what we want to do. All right. And then you'll notice that we have a scale. For the scale that we pulled our border in, what was it? 1.5. That's what we're going to put here. Okay. Then we're going to go to content, the last tab, and we're going to change our multi-leader from M-text to block. M-text to block. And then we're going to go to our source block and we're just going to pick circle. Okay. And then you're going to notice something, and I don't know if it's easy or hard to see, but notice where the line intersects our circle. It's going to be at like the quadrant on that one side. We want that to actually go through, if it would extend through the center of it. So we want it kind of sitting at the end of it rather than on there. So we want the attachment to be here, the insertion point. So we want this all to be in alignment. So do you see how that changed the look of the leader where it intersected with the balloon or the circle? And then we want to change our by block to by layer and our scale to be 1.5. Okay. All right. Now don't worry about that tag number. That's where we're going to put our individual number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on. Okay. All right. So let's just double check. I'm going to go back to leader format, straight, by layers, dot, filled in dot, and a 1/16 of an inch. And you can leave the 0.125 where it's at. Then we're going to go to leader structure. We want to make sure that we have automatically including landing is unchecked. And we're going to specify our scale at 1.5 to match what we pulled our border in at. And then content is going to go to from mtext to block. Source block is going to be circle. Insertion point for the attachment by layer, and then changing our scale to 1.5. Okay. All right. Okay. And now we have it balloons. Make sure that that's selected, set as current, and then we're going to say close. Okay. So now any leaders we put in are going to be in this balloon format. Okay. So they have number 1 is going to be our base plate. So to attach here, I'm going to go to multi-leader, and it's going to ask me for where I want my arrowhead. I'm going to just grab that endpoint right there, and I'm going to position. This is going to be the center of my balloon. And when I place it, before it does, I'm going to put my tag number in here, and that's going to be number 1. Okay, that's my item number 1, balloon number 1. I'm going to say okay, and then it automatically created it. And then what you want to do is just go down here. Notice that it used a dot instead of, an arrow. Okay. Now you can also, sometimes a dot, you could move it if you're like, oh, I think I like it to be on the part instead. You can do it that way as well. Okay. So both places are acceptable. All right. So now we're going to do it again. We're going to go balloon or multi-leader. We're going to grab side of our bearing, and that's going to be number 2. Okay. Is that going okay for everybody? Balloon. I'm going to kind of grab here, and this is going to be our number 3. And I'm probably going to move it. I kind of like it when it's like in the part, right? So that's it. And then my number 4 is going to be my fastener. 4, and okay, there we go. Okay. Kind of easy. Now, as you look, I'm just going to have you just kind of look at it. This is mostly how you're going to ever see balloons. Okay. If we go back to what they use, again, I don't know that there's a hard and fast standard on what they're supposed to look like. I mean, for the most part, you want an identifier and that kind of thing, but most often you never see them with a landing. You probably will see them with an arrow sometimes, but I like the dot. I think it looks good. So, and then it extends through the center. Okay. So I personally think our balloons look better than theirs. Okay. All right. So I'm happy with that. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to do a quick save. Now I need to generate my bill of material. Okay. So let's look at theirs. First and foremost, do we see anything kind of weird about their bill of material? Is there a problem? Or is it perfect? It's like, great job, book. It's not all caps. Yes, that's like nails on the chalkboard. Don't do that, right? So, so we need to make sure that any text that we put in here, it needs to be all caps, okay? So you'll notice that they have bill of material, the headers, if you would, are going to be down here at the bottom, and then the lines continue up, okay? For the reasons that we talked about before, if we end up adding any parts to this or changing it in some way, you have then extra room to just add on top rather than having to rearrange things, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a table to get this going. So we're going to go back to AutoCAD. We did our quick save, and on this annotate tab to the right of where we did the multi-leaders, there is a section for tables, okay? So we're just going to simply click the icon table, and we're going to come up here and we're going to be able to insert just a regular table. And you can insert an Excel file or something like that, but we're not going to. We're going to use the table, and we're going to fill our values in, kind of keep it simple, okay? Because there really truly is only 4 parts. It's not that big of a deal. Hans might be checking that out at this point. You are my, like, what's another way that I can do this, right? But if you have an Excel is going to make sense when we have, for instance, 80 parts that go into an assembly, which is not uncommon. Okay. If you turn around in the room here and we look at that engine back there, how many parts do you think are in that assembly drawing? There's going to be a lot in there. Okay. So probably having an Excel file would make a whole lot of sense rather than putting those individually. But we're going to just do it, just easy. So we're gonna just keep the standard table style. We're gonna start from an empty table. And again, here was where you could play with pulling in something from, for instance, Excel. And then you're gonna notice that we're gonna specify the insertion point on screen. And here is where we're gonna be able to customize how many rows and columns that we have. So the number of rows that we're going to have, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll use what they're using, 4. Column width, I'm just going to leave it at the 2.5 because what we can do is we can adjust that when we pull it in. Okay. Data rows. So how many rows do we need? We need a header and we need 4 parts. So we need 5. Okay. So 5 data rows, and we're going to leave that row height what it is. Okay. We're not going to mess around with that. We can, again, can always change that a little bit later. First row style. I think you can kind of set these up, but you can just do data. Yeah. I'm not worried about, we're not going to put a header, like a title on this. Most often you don't see that because we're just going to use like number, description, required, and material. There's not like another like title for this to be. And then second row style, just the data and data for all of these. Okay. All right. So now we're ready to put it in place. So we're going to say, okay. And then you'll notice that it attaches here to the end of my cursor. I'm going to, for right now, put it over on the side because then I'll place it in a little bit. And now I have the opportunity to start filling in. Okay. I'm just going to hit the escape key for right now and just kind of play around with this a little bit so you can kind of see what's what. Now, as we go around here, this is, you know, kind of like Excel. And if we double click on any one of the cells here, it goes into a text editing mode, but I'm going to tell you, it's not quite as easy to use as some of, you know, the familiar text editing types of things. So we'll go through a couple things here. Okay. First of all, if I want to enter anything into any one of my cells, I'm going to double click on it and it's going to go into this text editing mode. So for instance, at the bottom there, I just want to add in, they're calling it number. A lot of times you'll see it as item. So I'll call it number, we'll match what they have. And it's going to fill that block in. Now I could hit enter here and I'm in, like it's all in there. I'm done. But you'll notice that it's kind of like justified to the top of this cell. So I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to make sure I get into that text editing mode. And when I get into the text editing mode, not just into the cell selection. So notice the difference here. If I just cell select, I don't have the text editing stuff. But if I double click in there, now I'm text editing. Okay. And I want to set my justification here inside of that cell. Okay. To be center or middle center. Okay. And then hit enter. Or hit that and it centers it for me. Now, unfortunately, if I hit escape here, oops, shoots, I was supposed to hit enter, sorry. Again, it's not the best. Okay, hit enter to kind of get that in place, and now it's centered. And you would want to do that for all of them. Now, you might be like, but I don't want to do that for each one of my different cells, right? Every time I put it in. So what you can do is get into that text editing mode. You can hit the shift key and go up and kind of at a diagonal to, this is where text editing, shift. And if I go up into the corner here, how come this was working earlier? Shift and up. I was able to get it where I could control. Was it control? No, it was shift. I know it was. Maybe it was this shift. No, because then I can't. Oh, I can. So it's in this text editing mode like this. Again, it's not the easiest to use. I go shift up in the corner. I select the whole thing. So again, one click. Hold your shift key, go up into the opposite corner, and then right click. And you're going to go to alignment, and we want to be middle center. Okay. I know, it's a little tricky to play around with. Now, when I put text anywhere else, I'm gonna be, you know, I enter it in and it's now gonna be centered in each one of those. Okay, so that's one thing. Again, it's a little bit finicky. Now, I want to adjust the width of these to be a little bit different. So for the first one here, for the number or for the items for my balloons, I don't need that very wide. So I'm gonna double click on or single click and select that cell. And what I can do is go over the top of the like grip, make it red on the right hand side, and I'm simply going to pull it over and click again. Click, come on. Pull it over. Gosh. There, I think it went with me. Hold on. Maybe I have to do shift nearest. Sometimes you might have to use, there it goes. So shift, and I need to put on my ortho like that. Do it. It kind of did it. There we go. Now, why is it working now? I don't know. It's like the same as I was doing it. So I try to get this one maybe about like that. If you're having better luck playing with yours, great. My next column is going to be my description. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to put description in here. Okay. Hit enter. And then I want this one wider. Okay, I want this one wider. So I'm going to go like this. Seems to be working perfectly fine now. I don't know why it didn't before. This one is going to be my double click on here. This is going to be my REQ. They call it required. A lot of times you're going to see this as quantity, Q to QTY. And then here too, bring this over. This can be closer because we're only going to be putting like integer numbers in that column. And then our last one, they have for materials. So we'll double click there. Material, let's see. Did everybody get their rows to kind of change? Maybe you got it sooner than I did. I don't know why mine wasn't. Because now it seems to be working fine, exactly the way I tried to start doing it. Everybody's is okay? Working okay? All right. So now I'm going to take my table. I have a couple extra lines. That's okay. We can get rid of those. Hopefully. I'm going to take my table and I'm going to go from my little corner down here. It should snap to that corner. And then we're going to snap in. I hate you, AutoCAD, right now. I'm going to select my table and not as the cell. I want to select the table. And I should, let me go back to home. Maybe I'll just move it. That might be easier. There we go. Use the move function. Yeah, this was what I was a little afraid of with 1.5. I can still adjust it. So I'm going to first try to get rid of this. There we go. Get rid of the top line by double clicking. There we go. Double clicking that line. I'm going to get rid of that one. I should be able to delete that row up there in the corner. I've got 1, 2, 3. I only need 4, right? I can delete this row as well. So if you have some extra rows, we can do that. And then I should be able to move this again from here down to here. Okay. So now, well, I'm going to put my descriptions in and I probably won't need all that room. So I should be able to make it a little more narrow. So I'm going to go back. I don't have to go back. I can just double click here. I can go base plate. And then I'm going to arrow up and I'm going to do bearing, arrow up, collar, arrow up, cap, screw. They're doing, I'll do 3/8. I'll do what they're doing there. It's okay. Not the greatest. And then you can also, then with your arrows, you can kind of go down and up within within the chart, 3 and 4. And then over, we can go down to the recommended is going to be 1, 1, 1, and 2. That's the quantity. And then material wise, we have CI, C period, I period, that's cast iron, steel, steel, and stock. Okay, and that just means it's in a bin inside of our facility. So you'll notice here that my description area can be reduced, right? So I'll try to select on that, grab it, and pull it over. There we go. Maybe just a little bit more to give it a little bit more room. There we go. And now got my bill of material in place. Didn't go super smooth, but I think, are there any questions on that at all? Is anybody having any difficulties? Yes.
Did you get rid of the top line?
Oh, how did I get rid of the top line? So what you can do is if you select and select slowly, select kind of slowly, like at the beginning of the row, it seemed like it went. So we select and kind of select the row right there. And then now it allows me to go up and delete that row. Do you see that? I know. It's not a great text editor, but it's better than when, you know, early days of AutoCAD, they didn't have a table you could insert like this at all. You had to literally create the table with lines and offsets and then text. Yes. Yeah.
Did you scale it down before that?
Can you scale it? Answer me. Can I scale this? Can I scale this down? Why not? Then the text size won't be the same as the title block and the other items. Yes. Yeah. Don't do any of that. Joshua, did you have a question?
Did you delete the line on the edges that are meeting the border, or are those still there?
These? Those
They're
at the
still-
bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get rid of them. That's kind of a total block. I don't even know if, I don't even know if I wouldn't explode this. I would leave it all together as a table. Those aren't that big of a deal. The ones that you want to make sure that you don't have too many lines is going to be in your views over here for your drawing. So really we kind of hit everything. I'm not saying that I have a perfect drawing here. Use your, and really this looks good. Okay. Except, you know, using the style of balloons that we just identified, as well as making sure that we use all caps in our bill of material. I mean, those are the two big things that they didn't do quite right, but everything else I think looks totally fine and great. You can use that as your guide for the other items. Yeah, so then we're just going to do a file save. And again, this is not perfect. There's, you know, work that would need to be done. But as far as pulling the bill of materials in and all that kind of stuff. Now, once you get this done, I believe, I hope, there should be a Module 7 assignment for the subassembly. This they call it a subassembly. Shaft support subassembly is what they formally call it. So this is where you're going to upload then. You know what we're going to do this time? We're going to make this simple. How about this? We are going to, I'm going to edit this. We are not going to upload the CAD file. You're going to upload me a screenshot. How about that? The screenshot of the full assembly with the border. So you're going to go all the way around the outside of the border and you're going to give me a screenshot of this instead of the actual file. Does that sound okay? For me, that's actually a little bit faster. Okay. So doing it that way, we're going to do that. Okay. So make sure it looks good. I'm actually not going to check your files. Okay. But have a screenshot and make sure that you're doing all that good stuff. Because you want to be the designer that when they pull up yours and your initials are there, they're gonna be like, oh, cool. I know it's all good. Okay. All right, so that would round out module 7. If we go back to module 7, there are 2 assignments in module 7. The first assignment is updating, oopsie, go back over here, is going to be updating the individual drawings, right? And those are the updates that I wanted you to do. So for instance, when you go into the revisions here, there are the 3, the base plate, the bearing, and the collar. And the notes are on there. Make sure you remove the notes that are on there before you give it to me. It's like you're taking that drawing and you're releasing it to production. I now updated and I added the revision levels, and now it's ready for somebody to look at. You don't want to put those notes that I had in there for, you know, what you needed to change. I had just had them on there for convenience. Okay. So make sure that you make it look like, so for instance, if I pull up that drawing, I have to download it first, sorry. What I want you to do is I want you to delete this once you've put this in place. Okay, so make sure, and then also you don't want to have any asterisks by whatever is changing. Just make it a regular dimension. And again, I only have these here to aid you in, you know, where to focus and what you're supposed to do. Get rid of those afterwards, make it official. Okay, so any questions on module 7? So it's making the updates to the drawings, picking tolerances that are going to work. And then the other part of this module assignment is going to be creating that assembly drawing, the shaft support subassembly, uploading just the screenshot, okay? So I think now is a good time for a break. We'll take a 15-minute break. So that'll be until, I guess, 9:50. Okay. And we'll kind of be back. So, and then we'll kind of continue on.